statement will be about the real world, real politics. It won't be about Millennium Development Goals and principle, this, that, and the other. It's real examples. I'd like to congratulate everyone who actually is here today, because I know it's cost you a lot of time and money to get here. And not only have the organising committee done a brilliant job, well done you guys for turning out today. And it's inspiring and encouraging for me to know that this topic is of such interest to you. I hope that this afternoon I will encourage you. I hope that I will challenge you. I hope that I will also inspire you and encourage you to go out into the big bad world over the next few years, supporting and defending justice. 4 issues of real politics. Over 50 non-aligned nations now want a nuclear facility. It's in your best interests. We know best. Spread the fertilizers. I'm not allowed to say spread the shit, you see. The ugliest chapter in global economic affairs since slavery. 4 real issues. There was an Arab who died and left his 17 camels to his 3 sons. To the first son he left half the camels. To the second son he left 1/3 of the camels. To the third son he left 1/9 of the camels. Well, it just didn't work, did it? So they went to the lawyers and discussed it. All the lawyers said, it's beyond me. You must find another way. So they went to this wise old woman in the village, and he explained, we've got 17 camels left by our father, half, 1/3, 1/9. It just doesn't work. The old lady said, I'll give you my camel. So they now had 18 camels. So the first son got half, he got 9 camels. The second son, 1/3, he got 6 camels. The third son, 1/9, he got 2 camels, 17 camels. The boy said, but there's 1 camel left over. Well, I'll just take it home, said the old lady. So there you go. We've got in life to find that 18th camel. And I hope that today will help you on that particular road. My name's Ken Stuart. I'm Treasurer at UNA Scotland. I'm the Chair of International Development Working Group, and I'm the Director of Strategy of MyEscape and their division called UNScape. UNA Scotland is one of the members of WFUNA, the World Federation of United Nations Associations. Their aims are to support the United Nations and its targeted MDGs, to participate in political and societal advocacy, and to act as a watchdog on behalf of civic society. And it's that particular part that interested me when I first got involved. We're a grassroots organisation. We're non-political. Our idea is building a safer, more sustainable world, getting our hands dirty. And that's the last part, getting our hands dirty, takes it away from the normal platitudes that you usually get when you're talking about the United Nations. We have 6 working groups. Model United Nations, where the teenagers, as you probably know from your own countries, participate in General Assemblies. Nuclear non-proliferation, democracy and human rights, environment, Middle East, and my bailiwick, which is international development. So today I want to tell you some stories. They're not fairy tales, but they certainly are grim. They will touch upon several of the MDG issues: education, poverty and hunger, environmental sustainability, global partnerships in relation to capital building, and especially AIDS effectiveness. I want to talk about the global imposition of Western values. We saw that a wee bit earlier on today when Michael started talking about where we go with the next stage of MDGs. It's usually full of Western ideas and not listening to the South, as they call it now. We've had decades of inappropriate aid, full of good intentions, but full of governmental errors, NGO bungling, patronising attitudes, hubris, arrogance, incompetence, and embedded habits. It's been misdirected, ill-advised, inappropriate aid. As far as the donors are concerned, they've predetermined what they think the aid should be that was required. They've sent it top down, and they've sent it unconditional. The recipients were left unheeded, ignored, and they find it demeaning. I was speaking to the African League of Women about a couple of months ago in London, and they hate the word aid. They detest the word aid. It's demeaning, it's embarrassing for them. They're delighted to get help for their nation, but that help should be directed into targeted goods, efforts and services that the people need, not what the West think they should need. The results: corruption, waste, a sticking plaster over a gaping wound, underpinning bad regimes, slowing and impeding parliamentary democracy. And I'll touch on these later. Tell you a story now about my pal, Bob Burnside Coburn, who's a member of United Nations Edinburgh. In 2004, in June, he received a call from his daughter, as all fathers do, to say that she was going to get married. He said, "Why are you telling me?" He said, "Because I need you to pay for it." So, they lived in Natal, Durban. So Bob, whose wife had died 2 years earlier, and he'd been a wee bit lost, but he'd gone out to Phuket, the island of Malaysia, and he bought a business, a bar, a club, etc. So, Bob returned. He returned to Natal for his daughter's wedding. Wonderful wedding in Durban. He didn't feel very well that day. The next day, he felt worse. One of the guests at the wedding was a surgeon, and he said, "You've got problems," straight in the hospital. He had open heart surgery, quadruple bypass. Saved his life. When he came through in the hospital, his daughter and her new husband were sitting by his bedside, and they were delighted that he'd pulled through. And he said, don't worry, off you go to your honeymoon, I'll go back to Phuket, to Malaysia." And they said, "No way, we're going on our honeymoon once we see you're settled, but when we return, we're going to nurse you, we're going to convalesce you right over the Christmas and New Year period." On Boxing Day 2004, the tsunami hit Malaysia. Bob's business was written off. His 34 staff never been seen again. His whole area where he was looked like matchsticks on the ground. Now that got us in United Nations Scotland thinking a wee bit. Thinking about how natural disasters could create problems, especially in situations such as civil nuclear plants, especially those that might be near the shore, and especially in those regions such as the Indian Ocean, Pacific, etc., that rim where there could be problems. So we ran a series of conferences at the Scottish Parliament, and in June 2010 we'd written several times to New York, to the UN, pointing out that we were concerned about that, and we got the usual platitudes back. They didn't really take on board our concerns. And one of the wonderful things about United Nations associations, they're not funded directly by the UN. We reserve the right to be independent, and as such we reserve the right to criticise the UN. So we had pointed out a fair, what we thought, critique of the dangers of placing nuclear power stations near shorelines. We sent our chairman, Dr. Gary Dawn, to the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Review in New York in June that year, and she came back in August after the month's meetings and said, "Hey, there's something happening in the world here. There's over 50 nations, non-aligned nations, all putting their hat in the ring, asking for nuclear fission power to power their power stations." And we said, well, okay, it sounds commendable, but once again, we've got to think about the security implications and the implications for dangers for the civil population around these installations. So we lobbied the UN once again, got the usual platitudes back. In March 2011, you know what happened, Japan, the power station virtually wiped out, and panic. And by God, that got their attention then. All of a sudden, all the reports we'd sent, they were asking for duplicates, for triplicates, this, that and the other, and asking us to circulate it all over. Now that came about because as United Nations Association, as a civic organisation, made its voice heard, and we were ahead of the game. The message, listen to the people, listen to civic society.